William Shakespeare's Hamlet is often considered one of the greatest works in the history of written English. Why exactly is this? What makes this play so brilliant? After reading and watching the play, I have a pretty good hypothesis. No, it isn't the intricate and elaborate plot, nor is it the captivating cast of colorful characters, nor is it the incredibly effective exploitation of English and figurative language. Rather, it is the fact that Hamlet has absolutely no chill whatsoever. Throughout the play, Hamlet spews insults like a ruptured pipe at pretty much every single major character he talks to. Some of these insults are pretty blatant, and others are more subtle. It's possible that, even after having read the play, you never picked up on these, possibly because other characters don't ever act insulted. However, this just goes to show how witty Hamlet is being with some of these insults. They fly over other characters' heads. Hamlet being insane is also a contributing factor here, but regardless, the following is a brief examination of Hamlet's insults. Do note that this list is hardly exhaustive. I probably missed quite a lot. Let's begin. The character Hamlet most obviously insults is Polonius, the brown-nosed counselor of Claudius, and a bit of a thick man. The fact that he isn't the brightest star in the sky means that Hamlet's insults go flying 80 feet above his head at 3,600 kilometers per hour, so these ones are some of the juiciest. First of all, in Act 2, Scene 2, right off the bat, he calls Polonius a fishmonger, referring to how he's using Ophelia as a sort of bait for him. But I also don't think anyone particularly wants to be called anything with fish in it, period. Because Hamlet is pretending to be insane at this point, Polonius just thinks he's mistaken. Talk about mental gymnastics. He also acts like he doesn't even know Polonius, asking him if he has a daughter. He does, and Hamlet knows this because he's dating her. Then Hamlet states that conception is a blessing, but not as your daughter may conceive. This is an insult to Polonius, through the proxy of being an insult to Ophelia. Polonius asks him the question, "What do you read?" basically meaning, "What's going on?" To which Hamlet replies, "Words, words, words." Hamlet knows exactly what Polonius is trying to ask, but he purposely misinterprets the question to frustrate him. Polonius then tries to clarify his question with, "What is the matter?" and Hamlet just does the exact same thing again by just replying, "Between who?" Polonius is being incredibly patient right now. After a bit more wriggling, Hamlet finally gives an answer. Sort of. He acts like he's read all this horrible stuff about old people, but really it's a long-winded insult to Polonius, who is getting old himself. Next, Polonius asks Hamlet if he wants to walk out of the air, basically asking if he wanted to move somewhere else to get some fresh air. Hamlet again misinterprets the question with his reply, "Into my grave." Finally, Polonius tells Hamlet that he's leaving, and Hamlet literally says to his face that there's nothing he'd rather see leave. What a savage, right? But this is just the beginning. You all know about the famous nunnery scene between Hamlet and Ophelia, but your first time through it, you probably didn't quite understand what was going on, so allow me to explain. Recall that Hamlet wanted to smash, but Ophelia rejected him, not fully out of her own will, but because Laertes and Polonius told her to guard her chaste treasure. Hamlet was pretty salty about this. The whole "get thee to a nunnery" thing isn't actually serious advice on Hamlet's part. It's mocking her motivation for rejecting him. I guess a modern translation for this line would be, "Oh, boo-hoo, you want to keep your virginity? Then why don't you just become a nun so you can keep it for the rest of your life, you prude?" It's almost the same type of insult as, "If you love ice cream so much, then why don't you just marry it?" The next time Hamlet is talking about a nunnery, though, it's also coupled with some imagery that suggests he's actually telling Ophelia to go to a whorehouse. It seems rather harsh, but it's evident that Hamlet isn't just mad he got rejected. He feels insulted by the accusation that he only wanted to take her virginity and then leave her. I mean, if your girlfriend who you loved very deeply said that about you, wouldn't you be a little angry? This also explains the "if thou won't marry" line. He feels that women in general are too hasty to demonize men. Anyway, hopefully this scene now makes a bit more sense to you, as well as Hamlet's constant insults to the entire female sex. Some of you may still believe Hamlet is being too harsh to women, even considering the whole Ophelia situation, but recall that there is another woman in his life, his mother, the queen, and his aunt? Yep, because she remarried to her husband's brother, Hamlet's mother is now also his aunt, and Hamlet isn't so happy about that. If the Ophelia situation doesn't justify Hamlet's actions in your mind, the Gertrude situation at least probably does. She did, after all, give in to lust and completely betray her ex-husband. Because of this, Gertrude is yet another recipient of some insults, and these ones are my personal favorite. Hamlet says a bunch of disrespectful stuff to Gertrude, stating that she is wicked and evil for giving into lust, and blatantly disrespecting the memory of Hamlet Sr. Then, to show her his point, he compares Claudius to his father, talking up his father as basically the epitome of man, with hair and a forehead comparable to those of Greek gods, eyes that could command like the god of war, and a body as agile as Hermes. It's like every god made its mark on him. Then there's Claudius, who he calls an ear of corn, tarnishing his brother's image. He asks his mother if she's even sane for going from the former to the latter, and seals the whole thing off with the classic, "Have you eyes?" Maybe I'm just a dork, but I find this absolutely hilarious. He's basically saying his mother was so stupid that she downgraded from Zac Efron to Beans from Even Stevens. He insults Claudius so much that he insults his own mother, and if that isn't savage, I don't know what is. Claudius receives quite a few insults directly as well, and they start as early as the second scene, when Hamlet calls him a little more than kin and less than kind. This is referring to his double uncle-father relationship to Hamlet, and also doubles as a pun that uniquely focuses on spelling instead of sound. Hamlet is showing his wit here yet again. Way later on in Act 3, when Claudius asks him about the whereabouts of Polonius' body, Hamlet says he's at supper, obviously not true. Hamlet then goes into a bit of an elaborate metaphor about worms, dead bodies, and fishermen, essentially stating that by proxy, a beggar can end up eating a king. This is an insult to Claudius, but Claudius doesn't fully understand what Hamlet is talking about, just like how you probably didn't when you read this scene. But if you want to see Hamlet's biggest insult to Claudius, I think it's time to examine At the play within the play, Hamlet unleashes everything he has. Remember that everyone we have talked about so far, Ophelia, Gertrude, Claudius, and Polonius, are in attendance, and the insults just do not stop coming during this scene. He calls Polonius a capital calf, and given that they were talking about Caesar earlier, capital has a double meaning here. Then he sits down to Ophelia and keeps making constant references to her chastity, and calls the prologue as short as a woman's love. Then Gertrude tells Hamlet with his prompting that the lady playing the queen is overacting, to which Hamlet replies, "Oh, but she'll keep her word." Afterwards, Hamlet ribs Ophelia even more, and then Claudius stops the play. Don't forget that this whole play was essentially a giant insult to Claudius designed to get a reaction out of him. He literally added a whole scene to a play and renamed it to The Mousetrap for this purpose. Truthfully, this whole scene is a work of beauty, the magnum opus of Hamlet's insulting capabilities. Besides just those major characters, Hamlet insults a variety of other people. He insults the entire female sex with his "frailty, thy name is woman" comment, and as I explained earlier, he has pretty solid reasons for thinking this. He calls Rosencrantz and/or Guildenstern a sponge, referring to how they suck up to the king, who then wrings them dry, metaphorically. Being as suicidal as he is, Hamlet isn't afraid to insult himself either. He attacks his own inability to take action. Finally, in an act of true humility, he insults the entire human race, calling it a foul and pestilent congregation of vapors. So why do I love Hamlet's insults so much? It's mostly about the multiple layers of Shakespeare's works. See, Shakespeare's plays have a reputation for being complicated and artsy, but they have a lot of action scenes and lowbrow comedy designed to appeal to the commoner in addition to all the genius-level literary value. Back then, the play could be enjoyed by an uneducated homeless man, a fancy aristocrat, and a literature professor alike. Hamlet's insults act in much the same way, both within the universe of the play and in real life. You might be on par with Polonius in understanding these insults, or you might be in tune with Hamlet, or even somewhere in between. I find that these multiple layers onto which you can understand things are an important quality of any great work of media or art, and in this way, Hamlet's insults are an excellent demonstration of what makes Shakespeare so great.